Sorry, there's a short intro before we get back to that, but I really feel the need to play at least part of this for you guys so you understand. I understand this is from California, but trying to find the ones from Oregon is about like beating my head off the wall and expecting it to make me a rocket scientist. Sorry, I have no teeth. My mouth is dry. I have a stuttering issue. My apologies. This video is intended to provide a basic understanding of the legal duty of mandated reporters to report the suspected abuse or neglect of elders independent of... Sorry, I didn't read fast enough. Reporting abuse and neglect is critically important for this vulnerable population we all serve. Any care facility staff with questions about their mandated reporter responsibility should contact their local long-term care ombudsman. Here in Oregon, they pretend they don't know what an ombudsman is, and then when you try to contact the ombudsman, you can't reach them.
You keep doing this. I want you to stop. Now take your pills. Go get her dressed.
Now imagine if, because this is reality, right? This right here is just a staging. In reality, that woman who saw that, there are some people who are going to speak up right away. I would speak up right away. I'd pull out my camera and point at them and say, hey, try that again. I've done that. People are a lot less likely to do these things when they know they're being recorded. But some people just go off the deep end because how dare you? Now that lady who walked by with another patient who got to witness that slap. Imagine if you're that patient who just got slapped and you say, hey, there were 3 witnesses. There was myself, there was that nurse in the ponytail, and then there was a lady in the wheelchair that she was pushing. Or was that a gentleman? Now, of course, we only saw it just in glancing. It was definitely heard. And instead of turning it in, they basically have a discussion about the morality of it and the legality of it, which is what you guys want to ignore. Both aspects. Imagine you were that patient and you had to try to turn in the woman who slapped you, and they made you turn her in to herself. Or talked over you and just treated you like you were schizophrenic or delusional and you should go to therapy or you should take some pills. Or what if that nurse, what if she didn't slap you? What if all she did was take your pills? Well, that should be okay, right? No, it's not. It's still illegal. Now, in real life, you have a much, much higher chance, especially if you're a male victim, especially if you're a broke victim, especially if you're a homeless victim. Having that disability just makes it that much easier for people to harm you and to get away with it. In real life, their coworkers cover for them. Their coworkers say things like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I got to call somebody else. Or they say things like, it's not my job to investigate. It's not my job to collect evidence. Or they say, I don't need to see it. I believe you. But then they don't turn it in. We need these people who are mandatory reporters to do their job for vulnerable adults, because otherwise we are victimized because we are vulnerable adults. And meanwhile, it's not just 1 or 2 of these pieces who are doing this. We've recorded years of this here in Tillamook. We recorded it in Astoria. We recorded it in a lot of different places. Hood River, the Dalles. We exist so you have someone to hurt when you have a bad day. We exist so that you have someone you can beat up when you didn't get what you want. We exist so that police have someone that they can murder that nobody is gonna fucking bitch about. You don't like the way I said that? You think we serve a different purpose? What? What purpose do we serve? To show you that if you fucking bust your ass at backbreaking labor and you end up injured, that you deserve to be treated like you're a fucking crackhead who's out there raping little kids? No, fuck that. And it's not just in a facility. The ombudsman is for 1 year in a facility, but that includes jails and prisons. One of the forms of abuse is neglect. Now, if they say that they don't have enough staff there or that they're not trained, that is never the fault of the victim. That is never the fault of the victim.
I just walked by room 22 and saw Joyce slap the resident in her face and take away her call button.
That's not good.
I think she's out of line.
You should report this.
They should both
Towel
report
on
it.
her?
There should be an SOC 341. Every place I've worked at has them.
Now, that lady, she apparently knows the mandatory reporter laws. Let me pause this till it's over the commercial. All right, check this out. So this lady here, we all need somebody like this. Somebody who's helpful and useful and knows her fucking job. Part of your job is, as a mandatory reporter, you have to do it. It is required by law. And this lady right here, since she knows that stuff, she should be making a report too, because it was brought to her. She is now a witness that at least something was said. Does it go beyond this, though?
Remember this?
Looks familiar. Remind me again?
SOC 341 is for mandated reporting. You know what mandated means? It means you must. You need to fill this out and report this. You have 24 hours. If there's a question in your mind about whether to report it, you need to report it. That's what my instructor said.
But she could fire me. She's been here longer.
You're legally protected. In fact, you'll get in trouble if you don't report it.
So, what did Deputy Moody say when it comes to mandatory reporting? Because he was aware of abuse. He even got to see it with his own eyes. He said that he needs his job. He said that he's raising his daughters and needs to keep them safe. He said a lot of things. How about Deputy Taylor? Deputy Taylor was aware that these were not delusions and that I was still being harmed and treated like these were delusions. He didn't come forward. And repeatedly, their excuses are they don't have the time or they don't have the staff. They said, all of them in there said that they were mandatory reporters, but none of them except Deputy Fenewald was able to tell me what the mandatory reporter laws were because none of them knew. And the only reason that he was aware is because he had to look it up. These guys are required to have that training before they get their job. So why is it that they're not getting that training? Rick Reigenborn in Colorado was accepting money for training his deputies weren't getting, or his officers weren't getting. And I got a sneaking suspicion they're doing the same thing here in Tillamook. Because these guys are required to pass a test to get their job, and that includes a test on this.
Let me ask you a question. You have a grandmother?
Yes.
If it were her, would you want this to go on?
No.
And the cute music.
Welfare and Institution Code Section 1530 makes failure.
And most of these situations, the people who are in charge of these situations are women. In most of these situations, the care providers are women. In most of these situations, the abuser is that woman. Women are far more likely to abuse a position of power especially in a violent way like this, or in a sexual way, such as the female teacher pedophile epidemic. We're not allowed to say that, though. It doesn't fit the narrative that men are bad, okay? Men can't be victims.
A crime. It could be a simple slap, punch, or even aggressive yelling. It also includes more serious crimes like rape, grand theft, and even manslaughter. But mandated reporting also includes offenses that you might not consider criminal.
Now, I know this stuff. I've been speaking about this for years, but the mandated reporters I go to play stupid. They pretend it only counts if somebody physically assaults me right in front of them. And in this situation, you get to see that. But these aren't the only type of vulnerabilities either. Now, are they?
If a patient is being over-medicated so they can't wander around or be a bother, that is called chemical restraint. You are mandated to report that.
She was in post-acute care, which means she was in this facility.
So, in those pieces of paper written by the deputies where they stated that I did not fight going into the chair, it's illegal for chemical restraints as well as physical restraints. If somebody is not harming themselves, you don't need to put them in the chair. If you force them to harm themselves to get your attention, and literally that is what it took in the jail. I literally had to hurt myself to get their attention. That is never okay. If that woman being slapped in that facility, she's in a facility. If she tries to leave the abusive environment, what are they going to do to her? What do you really think they're going to do to her? You think they're just going to let her walk out? She wants to leave because she's getting fucking slapped? Or the other staff member is going to speak up? In reality, probably not. When that woman gets sick of being slapped and tries to walk off, they're going to say, oh, she's got dementia, or she's schizophrenic, she's mentally ill. She hasn't taken her meds. All right, this is why we, as victims of this shit, need to be allowed to turn in our predators without fear of being retaliated against. And you can see, I have repeatedly been retaliated against for coming forward.
To get better. She seemed to get less and less conscious every time we visited, which we did a lot. On January 1st, I went in there, and she was completely unconscious. Her arm was hooked over the wheelchairs.
Now we're going to pause this because you can see how long it goes, and they go over a lot of different types of abuse, not just those first ones that they listed. There's a lot of different types of abuse that need to be reported. Financial abuse does need to be reported. If you are taking advantage of a vulnerable adult, whether it be physically, financially, as an excuse to take your bad day out on somebody, or to try to make a few extra dollars, whatever it happens to be, taking advantage of them is against the law. Now let's shut this down. We're 13 minutes in, aren't we? Let's play some more of the situation with Shelley.
With TFCC and the police to pretend that I was delusional for trying to turn in abuse. I was sent to you guys by the police because you're supposed to be mandatory reporters.
I'm saying that you could sit with Russell to make that call.
Okay, I'll come and...
So this is the first time through the entire call that she acknowledged, instead of pushing the her and Russell. No, that shit is not happening. Russell, yeah. So I went down there and I spoke with Russell, recorded the call, and it's posted up on this channel.
sit with Russell, but it's not just going to be one call. It's not just going to be one call. There is certain criteria and certain tasks that need to be involved in turning in abuse against an at-risk and vulnerable adult.
Correct.
Russell knows enough that he is able...
She said correct. So she is aware of it. And the stuff I'm saying to her about Russell verified. You can listen to the video. Now, is this stuff that I want to post up on YouTube? No, they should have done their job to begin with. I shouldn't have to post all of this evidence all over YouTube and post my intent to turn these people in. I shouldn't have to do this. Nobody should have to go public about this. This is a last-ditch thing. This is everything else that I tried did not work. I tried talking to them nicely. I tried talking to them calmly and collectively. And you get to hear, even at the end of this video, I'm talking to her very, very nicely given the situation. I mean, really, I would have liked to spend that entire phone call screaming every curse word that I know at that lady and telling her about all of the dead people over the Natalie Bollinger situation, or since the Natalie Bollinger situation. There's a lot of witnesses who are no longer breathing.
To state outright and very clearly that this abuse has been going on and that he has seen it, he has witnessed it, he has gotten to see videos of it, he is aware that it's happening, and my life is at risk. And he has told me that he believes my life is at risk.
Not that. You would be the best describer of what's going on in your life. We are not arguing.
Ma'am, because I am a disabled.
The problem is that somebody else has to speak up. All right? If you call and you leave a message on their answering machine, which is what Adult Protective Services amounts to in this state, they don't fucking care. When they make a call, when you, as a disabled victim, make a call, you have to have a friend or family member there with you. That lets these people know that somebody there does care. And if that person is able to verify that you are telling the truth, verify that they have seen the videos, well, that's much more useful. Now, obviously, they don't want to look at any videos, and they also don't want to report. The thing with Shelley, she was supposedly a mandatory reporter. According to her, she was a mandatory reporter. But then she, of course, is saying all the same stuff. You got to see the very beginning of that mandatory reporter video. There's multiples of those, by the way, because there's a lot of laws about it, a lot of different types of abuse. And, you know, they want to pretend that because somebody is able to speak, that it means that they're not a vulnerable adult, or that they don't have the proper or correct disabilities. This is bullshit.
Person, if I do all of that talking myself, it's not going to go anywhere. I have to have a witness. That's the thing about mandatory reporters. If they refuse to turn in the abuse, you've got evidence of the abuse, and you say, hey, I have evidence of the abuse, then it is their job to turn it in.
We're not refusing doing that. What I called you today to say to you, clearly and plainly.
And she says they're not refusing to do that, which is good. She did, obviously, throughout the call, try to one call. There's hundreds of crimes that have been committed against me. Hundreds of them. Just here in Tillamook. Just because the police didn't want to acknowledge the Natalie Bollinger thing. They'd rather just look the other way and let people hurt me. I mean, who cares, right? I'm just a fucking hobo.
If you'd like to come in and have an appointment with Russell to make that call.
She pushes the an appointment. You notice the emphasis. This is one of the things about being a high-functioning autistic person. You all assume that we're stupid. You assume that we don't understand vocal tones. We don't get any of this. No, our problem is that we pick everything up. We gather more information than you do. Well, if you're a neurotypical. But that doesn't mean that we are low-functioning human beings. Now, when we're abused to the point that we can't function, that's a very different situation. And neglect is part of that abuse. Neglect is usually what results in people ending their own existence. Having to go through stuff like this, multiple agencies that aren't doing anything. They claim that they're going to investigate. No investigator shows up. It's bullshit. Now, there was a situation where I was able to catch an investigator at Northwest Senior and Disability Services, and I spoke to her. I believe her name was Tamara. I could be incorrect about that. I've met a lot of Tamaras and a lot of Mirandas in mental health. It seems to be a popular name, or popular names. But she was going to come and see me that Thursday and look at the evidence, but that didn't get to happen, and the video evidence of that is a pretty fucked up situation too. They weren't willing to listen. They weren't willing to look at it. Her boss was actually there that day, and he told me that they're not going to investigate it. They're not going to try. They're not going to make any fucking effort. That's the thing about these public officials pushing the gaslighting issue to pretend that I'm schizophrenic or delusional, is once they've been able to get some fucking idiot to write that down on paper, they're never going to let that go. That Longmont Hospital, the doctor wrote down that she did not observe any schizophrenic behaviors. That's pretty important. Then there's all of the psychological evaluations that Russell has seen. He verified that he saw them. Shelley won't look at any of that. Then there's the stuff that I took in there from TFCC to show the crimes that were being committed. Because again, Shelley's supposed to be a mandatory reporter. This is frequent and ongoing abuse, and it needs to be taken seriously. Otherwise, it continues. Instead, I have to fucking hide out in a tent in somebody's backyard until I basically overwarm my welcome because I've been here too long. I have nowhere else to go. I was victimized into homelessness repeatedly. And yeah, it's apparently okay because it's nobody's job to do anything about it. They didn't want to listen to the housing situation that I'm going through. They just wanted to talk over it. So I get a little bit of details that I get to tell them at a time.
Make the report. We are willing to do that. Russell has a new position now, so after that, that would end. If you want to work with the peer in regards to housing, would be more than willing to accommodate that.
Well, the situation with Russell is that Russell is a witness at this point, and that is very important to note. Russell does need to speak about what he knows. That is important. That's one of the things about the mandatory reporter thing, is that he does have to make a report within 24 hours.
And mind you, Russell is not a mandatory reporter. And I'm speaking about the mandatory reporter thing. I'm also speaking about the difference between a mandatory reporter and Russell. Russell doesn't have to make a report within 24 hours. He's not a mandatory reporter. So why is he the guy that I'm working with? Because he's a witness. And there's a very big difference between witness and mandatory reporter. Now, a mandatory reporter who is a witness, well, that's just a much bigger deal, isn't it? Imagine if Shelley had taken the time to look at those videos instead of talking over me. She would have had to turn them in. She would have had to take the situation seriously. It's not just one encounter, one time with one person.
Back from that,
Thank you.
before he was more than willing to help you and wanted to do so.
Man, he was working with me. Matter of fact, when you guys sent him to the little housing park, that entire 2 weeks, he kept on telling me every time I saw him that we were going to work on this stuff as soon as he was done with that. And then he was transferred over. Well, it would have been nice if that whole 2 weeks of abuse that I was enduring, I'd have had somebody to be able to turn it into that could be trusted. Anyway, I have to go down there and pick up my mail, obviously, so I'll be down there in just a few minutes.
Okay, so after that, the paperwork that you filled out, I'm assuming, apartment application.
Yes, ma'am.
So have you called and checked on any of your placement in those?
So, what calls to placement? Like, I don't know how any of this shit works. This is what Russell was supposed to be working with me with. Did Shelley say anything about that stuff? No. And as far as Russell goes, from what he was saying, any of this stuff that we're doing, he's going to make the calls with me. He's going to make the calls with me. But then he didn't. I got Shelley instead. Like, getting her to even make a call is fucking impossible. She's the mandatory reporter. She also wants to say she believes me. Well, fine. Believe anything that you want. I don't care what you believe. What do you know? Okay? Russell knows these things to be true because he's not going out of his way to look the other way. When it comes to the housing stuff, you want me to make calls? Fine, I'll make calls. But how am I supposed to make calls if we haven't gotten anything because we're still waiting on Miss Shelley after months of saying she's going to talk to Russell and she's going to check the emails? After months of that, oh, well, have you made any calls? Like, who the fuck am I supposed to call? I have no goddamn money. I have no fucking money to get a goddamn apartment. I got nothing. The peer support worker who was supposed to help me do that is no longer a peer support worker. And again, he's also not a mandatory reporter. This situation needs to have a mandatory reporter, and it needs to have Russell. And these mandatory reporters who are not doing their jobs need to be not involved. And people who are not mandatory reporters need to not threaten people who are mandatory reporters with any sort of consequences. If they have people there who are mandatory reporters, they need to do that job very specifically. All right, I was sent around in circles, not because I wanted to, but because none of these places would communicate. When CARE says one thing and the police say another, what you have to do is actually record them telling the police it's not their fucking job. And you have to record the police telling these people that they think that it is. That's what you have to do. Instead, they will literally make you go back and forth for years. CARE saying, no, that's not correct. That's not correct. They won't say you've been lied to. They'll say that's not correct. And then the police will say, no, that's not correct. That's not correct. They don't say they were lying. They say that's not correct. Well, if it's not correct, you should fucking tell them. Maybe CARE and the police, instead of getting together to fuck people's lives over, maybe they should get together and tell each other what they're allowed to do and what they're not, instead of making us go back and forth between the two son of a bitches like a goddamn ping pong ball.
Roles for the different apartments.
Ma'am, I haven't gotten any information back on any of that. That was what me and Russell were working on, and Miss Shelley hasn't worked on anything with me. Everything that me and Russell were working on, she stalled out so that nothing has been getting done. Do what?
Russell's here with me, and he said that he filled that apartment application.
I knew Russell was there with her. That's one of the reasons I'm actually still on the phone. He's still a witness.
With you. He scanned them to the apartment complexes, and he gave you back the original copies.
I don't have the original copies. Now, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt because really he's hopefully going to try to help turn this stuff in, but you get to hear about these people. There's no give a shit to this woman. This conversation should have happened between me and Russell, not Melissa at all.
I did not get back the original copies.
We always give back the original copies.
Well, you always give back the original copies. Doesn't detract from the fact that you guys have made plenty of mistakes before. There's a possibility there was a mistake made on this. I definitely do not have copies of it. I definitely do not have any of that going on. I can hear him talking, but I can't hear what he's saying.
Oh, here we go. Let me turn the phone for you, Sean. Hold on. When I scanned those for you, I had put them in a manila envelope and handed them to you in the lobby. The three that we had filled out at that time.
he give them back.
I have two of them. There's two of them. It's the two that when I went to him and he had told me that they had lost them, so he had me fill out two more, and I filled out those two more, and I went back and gave them to him, and he told me that they'd already found it, and it's got a little date up in the corner that shows that he did fax them. So I've got two, and that's what I told them. I've got two of them.
A bunch of manila envelopes in here. I can dig through them and see if they're there. I was digging through them, I want to say yesterday. The only stuff that I had from CARE was the photocopies of my birth certificate, the photocopies of my driver's license, and I can't remember what was in the other one, but it's not housing.
It would be important to grab those if you still have them.
I obviously don't have them. This is the thing, is that I've looked in the manila envelopes. I'll look them in again.
So this is the thing about these people playing this bullshit. Okay, for months, Shelly has been telling me that she can't find them. And I offer to fill them out again. And she says, no, I'll talk to Russell. Or no, I'll check the emails. Like, we're not getting anywhere. We're going around in circles because they're playing stupid. Housing, 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 housing. How about instead of talking nonstop about housing for hours, we fucking get on it? The other thing is, if you have mandatory reporters there, my life is at risk because these pieces of shit didn't do their job the first 100 fucking times they should have done it.
And them again, but I don't have them. I don't have them.
So if we can call and check on those apartments and see if we found
I can call and check on those apartments. I don't know where these apartments are. We never got to finish that because Russell was going to help finish that, but then he got working on that other part. So we never finished that, and Miss Shelley just doesn't stop talking. It's a very difficult thing to get anything accomplished with her because she's not recognizing the situation.
So, I guess we will see you when you come down here. Do you know what time you're going to come?
I'm leaving here in just a couple of minutes. I was literally just putting my jacket on and getting my recording stuff, getting ready to go down there and pick up my mail.
Okay, so then I will have Russ stick around here. Do you want to make that phone call today in regards to your reporting, or do you want to do it a different day?
I'll speak to Mr. Russell as soon as I get down there.
Okay, we will see you then, Sean. Thank you.
That was Melissa. She committed felonies as well. The thing is that they're refusing to do their jobs as mandatory reporters. The ones that are mandatory reporters, apparently she is not a mandatory reporter, but she is in control of a part of that, well, obviously this whole situation is a fucked situation because these people have helped to deprive me of my resources. I gotta go down to CARE. I gotta take some of my stuff with me now, apparently, so that I can show Russell what's up. I shouldn't have to do this. I shouldn't have to work with people who are committing crimes against us and going out of their way to play stupid. I don't have the ability to carry all of my evidence there, so I'm going to talk to Russell and I'm going to coordinate with him to the best of my ability. But them continually changing the subject to housing, we only help out with housing, we're a non-profit. No, they are all profiting for me going back there again and again and again. And then, of course, no, they never gave me that shit. They never gave it. He gave me back 2 of the pieces of paper that he had me filled out, because he had me fill them out 2 at a time, and we filled out 6 of them overall. 2 of them he had me refill out, and then he gave them back to me. As far as a manila envelope in here that's got them in it, no, that didn't happen. But I have to pretend that it happened. I have to pretend that all of these people's lies are fucking true, right? Isn't that what they expect me to do? No, this is not fucking okay.
Yep. So the situation is that as a vulnerable adult who's intelligent, they get to pretend I can do a bunch of stuff that I didn't because I'm intelligent. And then the stuff that I am able to do, they're not going to look at because they're just going to call me delusional. Pretend that I'm schizophrenic or pretend that I'm out to get them. Now, Melissa did talk very nice in that one compared to, well, they're well aware that I'm fucking recording again. That is for certain. You know, when I went in there and I was told, hey, you know what? Maybe it's your attitude. You know what? I thought about that from the start. That's why I started off not with a shitty fucking attitude years ago. But that's what you guys aren't wanting to look at. All right. This isn't just one or two pieces of abuse. This is literally years of fucking torture. It is torture being sent to the fucking government for them to fucking rip me off and treat me like I'm some sort of a fucking horrible person because they won't do their jobs. We're paying them taxes for jobs they're not doing. They're pawning us off on CARE, pawning us off on TFCC, pawning us off on all these agencies. They're pawning us off on each other. All of them have mandatory reporters, and then they want to pawn you off on peer support workers who are drug addicts, felons, and not mandatory reporters. Like, this makes no sense. You want us to run around in circles for the housing thing? I didn't fucking want housing ever in here in this goddamn state to begin with. What I wanted was to be able to turn in crimes that are committed against me and know that something is going to be done about it. I came here temporarily. I came to Oregon to flee Nebraska and the abuse by law enforcement and the local community there in Chapel, fucking Nebraska. And I had to fucking flee that goddamn abuse, including the same exact shit they do here. I tried to turn in the crooked fucking cops there, and I was arrested for improper use of 911. State Patrol said it's not our job to police the police, and Scott DaCosta said, well, we're not allowed to investigate ourselves. So, lo and behold, back and forth between those two agencies I go. Scott DaCosta and his boys telling me I got to call the State Patrol. State Patrol telling me I got to turn it into Scott DaCosta.